All right, so we're here with Jerry Miller of the United Space Alliance, not to be confused with United Launch Alliance. That's right. How was it that you first got started with the company?
Well, I was actually doing the work that the company eventually consolidated the contracts from. The company was founded between Boeing and Lockheed in 1996. And it consolidated about 28 different contracts that were supporting NASA's flying of the shuttle. And I was operating under one of those contracts at the time for Rockwell Space Operations Company. And so I came in as part of the consolidation contract.
So since United Space Alliance mainly was working on the space shuttle, and now that the space shuttle is retired, what now? What's next for the company?
Well, a lot of people were not aware that not only did we fly the shuttle, but we also operate the space station, which of course we continue to do, which is all the plan, train, fly for mission operations for that. Then of course with the transition from shuttle-based space access to commercial space, we're bringing all of that expertise in terms of integrated mission operations to the table in the commercial area, which it's kind of interesting for us. A lot of people think this is sort of new and different that a commercial company is involved in human spaceflight operations, but for us it's kind of surprising that people hadn't noticed. We've been doing that as a company since 1996, and so we've got a lot of talent, a lot of expertise that we can bring.
So are you then going to be working with some of the commercial companies that have won the CCDev awards that are looking to launch on top of the Atlas rocket?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, we're involved with a number of the commercial companies now and have been for a while.
In the future, what sort of mission operations are you looking to mainly be doing other than the International Space Station?
Well, as I said, the commercial companies are now coming along and reaching a level of maturity that they're having to go beyond just developing the vehicle. And that's been made very clear. Well, you mentioned the CCDev opportunities with NASA. The latest round of those offerings have come out called the CCIDC, the Commercial Crew Integrated Design Contract. And it's really expanding the scope tremendously from where it had been focusing on either the crewed vehicle that someone's going to ride in or the launch vehicle that's going to carry it up, and really expanding it to looking at the entire end-to-end transportation system. The analogy I make sometimes to people is, yes, in order to go someplace you may need a car, and you've focused on designing and developing and building a really great car, but that in and of itself is really not a transportation system. In order to take that car and make it useful, you need the highways, you need the access roads, you need the gas stations, you need people trained to drive the car, you need all of the regulations involved with traffic laws, and that's really what is meant by an integrated transportation system. And that's what's come out with CCIDC, and that's really where our expertise comes to play. Looking at everything that's in the integrated design contract, it's asking for the mission operations, the ground processing, the safety and mission assurance, all the things that we really excel at.
Now, with the CCIDC, will that be continued under Space Act agreements, or will that be fixed contracts?
No, it's moving away from Space Act agreements, and it's moving into a more liberal version of the traditional FAR contract. It's certainly not your standard FAR contract, but it's definitely moving out of the realm of Space Act agreements.
Now, for the CCIDC, is that the same as the CCDev 3, or is that a separate?
It's the new name for CCDev 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that distinction.
Sure.
So for you personally, what would you say is the highlight of your career?
Oh, well, I'm fortunate enough to have had the best job in the space business. I was one of the lead EVA spacewalking officers in mission control for 22 years. Worked a number of missions going all the way back to the mid-'80s when McDonnell Douglas had the contract. I initially worked for them. And I worked missions on the shuttle Mir, and early shuttle and space station missions. Probably for me, the most famous was STS-49, which was the retrieval and reboost of the Intelsat 6 satellite, which remains today the only time that 3 people have ever been sent out on a spacewalk at one time.
That was the mission where they had to literally grab the thing by their hands to stop it.
I was the lead EVA officer for that flight.
Oh, wow. With the EVAs, what was the most dangerous or most hairy situation that you had to deal with?
Well, you know, it's interesting. People like to associate the notion of EVA with being dangerous, when in fact, if you look at the suit itself, it's essentially a single-person spacecraft. It has everything on board that a standard vehicle does, all the life support, all the electrical, all the communications. And so from the perspective of those of us who did it on a daily basis as part of our job, you see the risk mitigation that went into it, and you see the level of safety, and quite honestly, it's not significantly more or less risky than just being in the vehicle itself. You're just in a smaller vehicle.
Now, in the future, for future ISS EVAs, do you know if they'll be using the manned maneuvering unit at all, or is that?
No, the MMU was retired a number of years ago, quite a few years ago, and it is maintained in storage, but it would take a tremendous amount to bring it back to flight readiness.
Okay. Now, I just want you to take a moment and think, is there anything else that you would want to add to this?
Only that I think it's very interesting to see the point that we are at now, because personally I think we are experiencing a real sea change, because the retirement of the shuttle has made it real to people. The fact that I don't know that many people have considered that at this point the U.S. does not have its own independent human spaceflight program. We are literally dependent on someone else to get us into space. And I think the reality of that setting in is sparking a great deal more interest and a great deal more emphasis on really progressing beyond where we are today, and I think it's a really interesting time to be involved.
So personally, what of the new commercial ventures are you personally rooting for?
Oh, you know, that's the nice thing about being in operations. We don't build the vehicle, we operate the vehicle. And so for us, we're happy if everybody wins, because that's just more vehicles to go play with.